So let's talk about universal basic income. Is it this magic cure for poverty, or is it some kind of economic disaster just waiting to happen? I mean, this debate is raging everywhere right now, from social media to the halls of government. But to really get a handle on it, we've got to first look back at where this whole idea even came from.
And you might think this is some new, flashy idea straight out of Silicon Valley, right? Nope. Way back in 1967, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was arguing that the simplest way to get rid of poverty is, well, to just give people a guaranteed income. And when you see a leader like him, and as we're going to find out, some pretty hardcore libertarian economists kind of nodding along to the same core idea, that tells you there's something really powerful going on here.
But before we can really have a good debate, we all need to be talking about the same thing. So let's get specific. What is universal basic income really? And what makes it so different from the social safety nets we're already used to?
At its heart, the idea is super simple. It's a regular cash payment that goes out to every single citizen. That's it. But of course the devil's in the details. And there are three key principles that have to be there for a program to be a true UBI.
All right, first up, universal. This means everyone gets it. Doesn't matter if you're rich or you're poor. And that's a big deal because it gets rid of the stigma that can come with traditional welfare. Second, unconditional. This one's huge. It means no work requirements, no strings attached. You just get the money. And third, it's regular cash. We're not talking about food stamps or housing vouchers. The idea is to give people actual money because, hey, who knows what you need better than you?
Okay, now you might be thinking, hey, this sounds a little familiar. And you're probably thinking of something called the negative income tax, an idea pushed by the famous libertarian economist Milton Friedman. And yeah, on paper, the math can look kind of similar. But the philosophy behind them is totally different. UBI is for everyone. It's like a dividend you get just for being a citizen. And NIT, on the other hand, is targeted. It only goes to people below a certain income level, and it works through the tax system.
All right, so we've got the definition down. Now for the exciting part. Let's get into the promise of UBI. What's the bull case? Why do so many people believe this could be a total game changer for our society?
And the arguments are pretty compelling, right? I mean, just think about it. What if we could tackle poverty with a single, direct policy? What if we had a real safety net for the age of AI and automation? The thinking is, if you give every worker a basic income floor to stand on, suddenly they have more power to ask for better wages. And maybe, just maybe, it would free people up to take a risk and start that small business they've always dreamed of.
But you knew there was a but coming, right? Every story has two sides, and the case against UBI is a big one. It's a really strong case, and it all starts with a number that is just mind-bogglingly huge. Yeah, $3.1 trillion. That's the estimated annual gross cost for what sounds like a pretty modest plan, $1,000 a month for every adult in the U.S. To give you some perspective, that's roughly the entire amount of money the federal government collects in taxes in a whole year. The cost alone is, well, it's a mountain. A really, really big one. And it's not just about the price tag. There are some serious economic worries here. I mean, if you suddenly pump that much cash into the economy, does everything just get way more expensive? Inflation. And the big one, would people just stop working? Plus, is it really the smartest use of money to be sending checks to millionaires? These are the really tough questions that keep economists up at night.
Okay, so we have the pro arguments and the con arguments. But here's the cool part. This isn't just a theoretical debate anymore. We actually have real-world data from experiments all over the globe. So what does the evidence actually say? What happens when you just give people cash with no strings attached? Let's find out.
And when you look at the data, a really clear pattern starts to pop up. It's fascinating. Just look at that right-hand column on health and well-being. Back in the 70s in Canada, hospital visits dropped by 8.5%. More recently in Finland, people were just happier, less stressed. Stockton, California, same thing, less anxiety and depression. So the benefits for people's health seem to be a total slam dunk. But now, look at that middle column about what happens to work. This is where the story takes a really surprising turn. Which brings us right back to the million-dollar question, or I guess the trillion-dollar question. It's the biggest fear everyone has about UBI. If you give people money for nothing, are they just going to quit their jobs and sit on the couch?
Well, the results from that Stockton experiment didn't just challenge that idea, they completely shattered it. People who got $500 a month actually found full-time work at twice the rate of the people who didn't. Let that sink in. It turns out that a little bit of financial stability doesn't make people lazy, it empowers them.
It gives them the breathing room to actually look for a better job, to pay for childcare so they can work, or, to finally get that car fixed so they can get to an interview.
So, okay, we've got all this amazing data from these small experiments. We're starting to get a clearer picture. But what does it all add up to? Well, it brings us to this fundamental tension that's right at the heart of the entire UBI debate.
And here it is, the bottom line. On the small scale, the individual or micro level, the evidence is just overwhelmingly positive. Giving people unconditional cash demonstrably improves their health. It reduces stress. It makes them more financially stable. It just works. But on the huge, nationwide macro level, all those giant questions about inflation and cost and the long-term economic effects, they're still just giant, unanswered questions.
And this right here shows you just how massive that uncertainty really is. I mean, look at this. You ask two different groups of very smart economists to predict what a national UBI would do, and their models spit out completely opposite answers. One says, hey, the economy is going to boom by over 12%. The other says, nope, it's going to shrink by over 9%. They're not even in the same ballpark. It just goes to show you that, at the end of the day, nobody really knows how our complex economy would react to something this big.
So where does all this leave us? It's a fascinating dilemma, isn't it? We have compelling proof that UBI helps individual people lead healthier, more stable lives. That part seems clear. The great unknown, the thing nobody can answer for sure, is whether our entire economy can handle such a seismic shift. So the debate isn't about whether it can change one person's life for the better. We know it can. The real question is, can it work for everyone, all at once? And that is the multi-trillion-dollar question.